Billionaire handed out 4 black cards to test 4 women. What the maid chose stunned him. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It is quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let us return to our main character. Ethan Cole had built his empire by 37. Yet on this quiet Los Angeles morning, he stood in his own mansion dressed like an assistant. A plain gray shirt, a modest jacket, and no trace of the billionaire the world whispered about. The marble floors reflected soft daylight, and the scent of fresh citrus drifted from the garden outside. Everything looked calm. But inside Ethan, a storm had been building for months. His divorce had left a bruise deeper than he admitted. Too many people had seen his wealth before they saw him. Too many smiles had been rehearsed. Too many promises tied to what he owned instead of who he was. So today, Ethan decided to test something far rarer than money. He wanted to test character. 4 women entered the mansion's foyer for what they believed was a private selection event for a philanthropist seeking ambassadors. They had no idea the assistant standing in front of them was the man behind the entire test. Vanessa, a Beverly Hills socialite, walked in first, sunglasses perched on her head though the room was dim. Brooke, a rising Instagram model, followed with a confident stride. Lauren, the daughter of a wealthy business partner, moved with quiet entitlement. And behind them, almost hidden by their perfume and chatter, came Mia Turner, the part-time maid who cleaned the mansion twice a week. Her steps were soft, careful, respectful of a home that was never hers. Ethan studied each of them, keeping his expression unreadable. Then he held out 4 black American Express Centurion cards, 1 to each woman. "Buy something," he said calmly. "Something you believe the man of this house truly needs." The 3 glamorous women's eyes gleamed, but Mia froze. Her fingers trembled as she accepted the card. In her pocket, she carried a folded prescription for her little brother's asthma medication, a bill she had not yet been able to pay. She looked nothing like the others, wearing a simple thrift store sweater and jeans still dusted with flour from the diner where she worked extra shifts. Mia swallowed. "Sir, are you sure? This is a very expensive card." Ethan only nodded. "Yes, choose wisely." For a moment, Mia glanced around the mansion, at the towering artwork, the gleaming staircase, the luxury that seemed too heavy for a single person to carry. Something in her eyes shifted, a quiet sadness mixed with understanding. Meanwhile, Vanessa and Brooke were already whispering about limited edition watches and designer collections. Lauren smirked, confident she would impress the mysterious owner. Only Mia stepped back, clutching the black card like it weighed 100 pounds. As the women filed out to begin the challenge, Ethan watched Mia linger by the doorway, looking confused, almost burdened. That single expression made him inhale slowly. This test had just become far more interesting than he expected. The afternoon sun dipped behind the tall Los Angeles palms as Mia hurried down the sidewalk, clutching the black card as if it might burst into flames. She did not head toward luxury boutiques or celebrity streets. Instead, she stopped outside a modest Target, the automatic doors sliding open with a soft hiss. Inside, families browsed school supplies, and teenagers laughed near the snack aisle. It felt safe, familiar, nothing like the mansion she had just left. Mia walked slowly past the shelves, her fingers brushing along notebooks, pens, and planners. Everything in this store reminded her of real life, the life she actually lived. Rent due every month, double shifts at the diner, her younger brother's inhaler that ran out too fast. She held the black card tighter. She knew she could buy anything, but that was exactly what scared her. Meanwhile, back at the mansion, Ethan Cole reviewed the first updates from the other 3 women. Vanessa had immediately gone to a luxury watch boutique on Rodeo Drive and selected a $7,000 gold timepiece. Brooke filmed herself choosing a limited edition designer coat to boost the house owner's image. Lauren had ordered an $1,100 bottle of rare wine. Their choices did not surprise Ethan at all. But Mia had disappeared from the mansion grounds entirely. A quiet curiosity pulled at him. He checked the security logs and saw her walking toward the street, choosing the bus stop instead of a car service. That detail alone made Ethan put down his phone and step outside. He wanted to understand her choice. Something about the way she hesitated earlier stayed with him. By the time Ethan reached Target, he saw her through the front window. She stood in the stationery aisle, staring at a simple lined planner priced at $6.99. She touched it, gently, like she was holding a fragile idea. He watched her lift it, examine it, then place it down again with a sigh. Mia whispered to herself, unaware that he was nearby. He does not need more things. He needs a fresh start, something real. She moved toward the pens, picking up a single blue ballpoint that cost less than $1. She read the package carefully, as if the pen were a luxury item. Ethan's chest tightened with something he had not felt in a long time. Respect. Maybe even admiration. Mia then lifted a paperback book titled Leading with Integrity. The cover was plain, the price was modest, but the message was clear. She ran her hand along the spine and nodded as if confirming something within herself. Finally, she approached the checkout lane. She placed the 3 items on the belt and pulled out the black card with visible reluctance. Her voice was soft when she spoke to the cashier. "These 3, please." Outside, Mia stepped into the fading light, holding the small red shopping bag like it contained something fragile and precious. She did not notice Ethan watching from several steps away. She only stood quietly at the bus stop, breathing out slowly, as if relieved that she had made the right decision. Ethan remained still, hidden behind a row of trees, feeling a strange warmth spread across his chest. The other women had chosen extravagance. Mia had chosen reflection. He realized something unsettling and remarkable at the same time. This test was no longer just about finding a person with integrity. It was about discovering why Mia Turner's choice mattered to him far more than all the others combined. The next morning, the mansion in Los Angeles was unusually quiet. Sunlight filtered through the tall windows, casting long, pale stripes across the marble floor. Ethan arrived early, standing near the grand staircase as the 4 women entered, one by one, to present what they had purchased. Vanessa strutted in first, holding a velvet box with the confidence of someone certain she had won. Brooke followed, with a luxury garment bag draped over her arm, already preparing her speech. Lauren carried her bottle of rare wine with both hands, treating it like a trophy. Mia stood at the back, holding a simple red Target bag that looked painfully small compared to the others. Vanessa stepped forward. "This is a $7,000 gold watch," she said proudly. "A man of power deserves a symbol of power." Ethan nodded politely, though his expression did not change. Brooke flipped her hair and opened her garment bag. "A custom designer coat. Image is everything. The owner needs to look like he belongs on the front page." Ethan thanked her without emotion. Lauren lifted her wine. "This bottle is nearly impossible to find. Only people of true status can appreciate it." Again, Ethan remained calm. Then, the room fell quiet as every eye shifted toward Mia. She walked forward slowly and placed her small bag on the table. Her hands were steady, but her eyes carried the weight of a decision she had made entirely alone. Inside the bag were the 3 items: the $6 planner, the $1 pen, and the paperback book, Leading with Integrity. Mia spoke softly, but her voice did not waver. "I know these are not expensive. I understand that they look small next to everything else. But I spent yesterday looking around the mansion. I saw beautiful things, expensive things, things most people can only dream of. That told me something." She drew in a breath. "The man who owns this house does not need more luxury. He needs direction, clarity, and honesty. He needs someone who will tell him the truth, not someone who will impress him." The room went completely silent. Vanessa frowned. Brooke rolled her eyes. Lauren looked offended, but Ethan did not move. For a long moment, he simply stared at the binder and the pen, as if they held something invisible to everyone else in the room. Finally, he lifted his gaze to Mia. "Why these three?" he asked quietly. Mia hesitated, then answered, "Because leadership without integrity is hollow, and because even the wealthiest person can feel lost. A planner helps someone start again. A pen helps them commit to their own choices. And the book? The book reminds them that power is only meaningful when it is used the right way." Ethan felt something tighten in his chest, a feeling he had buried long ago. Out of all the explanations he had expected, this was not one of them. Her sincerity felt disarming, almost unsettling in its purity. Vanessa scoffed under her breath. "You really think a billionaire needs a $6 planner?" Mia turned slightly, meeting her gaze without hostility. "I think everyone needs a place to begin again." Ethan's breath caught at those words. Begin again. It echoed in him with surprising force, shaking loose something that had been locked away since his divorce. The other women stepped back, irritated and confused, waiting for Ethan to declare a winner. But instead of choosing, Ethan spoke quietly, almost to himself. "You spent only $8. Mia nodded. "I spent what I believed was necessary." Ethan looked at her for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Then he stepped away from the table, his voice steady. "Thank you, Mia. Please stay after the others leave." Vanessa stiffened. Brooke's smile faded. Lauren muttered something under her breath, but Ethan had already turned his attention away from all of them. Because for the first time in a very long time, he felt like he had just met someone who truly saw him. Not the billionaire, not the image, just the man. The mansion grew quiet after the three glamorous women left, their perfume fading from the air as the door closed behind them. Only Mia remained, standing near the long dining table with her hands clasped in front of her. She looked unsure if she should sit, stand, or apologize for something she did not even understand. The morning light softened the sharp lines of the room, and for a moment, it felt like the mansion itself was holding its breath. Ethan stepped closer, no longer maintaining the distant posture he had shown earlier. His voice was gentle. "Mia, thank you for waiting." She nodded. "Yes, sir." "You do not have to call me sir," he said with a faint smile. "My name is Ethan." Mia looked slightly surprised, but repeated softly, "Thank you, Ethan." He motioned for her to sit. As she took the chair, she placed her hands carefully in her lap, almost as if she was afraid to disturb the polished surface of the table. Ethan sat across from her, but not too far. He wanted to understand the way her mind worked, the way she saw the world with such clarity despite having so little. "I want to ask you something," he said. "When you held that card yesterday, what went through your mind?" Mia exhaled slowly. It felt heavy, not because of the money, but because it did not feel like something I should use for myself. I kept thinking about what the owner might actually need. I looked around this mansion, and it seemed obvious that he already had more luxury than anyone could use. So I tried to think of something that would matter beyond money. Her honesty disarmed him again. "Why did you choose a planner?" She glanced up with a soft, thoughtful expression. A planner is the first page of something new. It helps someone set goals, remember what they want, and stay grounded. Sometimes life becomes complicated, and people lose their direction. Starting on a blank page helps them breathe again. Ethan swallowed, hearing too much truth in her words. It reminded him of the months he spent lost after his divorce, surrounded by wealth yet feeling painfully empty. "And the book?" he asked. She smiled faintly. "Sometimes leaders forget that they are human first. Integrity cannot be bought. It has to be practiced." Ethan felt a stirring of emotion he had not expected. She spoke as if she had studied him without knowing who he was, as if she had seen the cracks behind the polished exterior. "And the pen?" "To commit to new choices," Mia replied. "It only takes one moment of honesty to change a life." Ethan leaned back, absorbing every word. He had designed this test expecting predictable results. Instead, Mia had revealed something deeply personal. After a long silence, he finally said, Mia, I have something to tell you. She looked up, waiting. I am not the assistant. I am the owner of this house. I am Ethan Cole, the head of Cole Industries. Mia blinked, stunned. Her mouth parted slightly, but no words came out. Her breath hitched as reality settled in. The test was mine, Ethan continued gently. I needed to see how people behave when they do not know who I am. Mia's voice trembled. I did not know. I would never have... I know, Ethan said, cutting in softly. That is exactly why your choice matters. Her eyes lowered, filled with humility and disbelief. I am just a maid. I clean your floors. I do not belong in a room like this. Ethan shook his head. You are wrong, Mia. She looked up again, startled by the warmth in his voice. You are the only one who made a choice that came from conscience instead of opportunity. That is worth more to me than anything money can buy. Mia pressed her hands together tightly, struggling with emotions she could not name. After a moment, she whispered, I did not think any of that would matter. It matters, Ethan said quietly, and I want to talk to you about an opportunity, one that could change everything for you. Mia stared at him, unsure if she should breathe or run. The room felt larger, quieter, and far more dangerous in its possibilities, because for the first time in her life, someone powerful was looking at her as if she mattered. Ethan let the silence settle for a moment, giving Mia time to breathe. She sat across from him, her posture small but steady, like someone preparing for news that could change her life or break it. Ethan folded his hands on the table, studying her with an expression she could not read. Mia, he began, I would like to offer you a position at the Cole Foundation. It is not a cleaning position. It is a real job, with real responsibility. You would help manage our community outreach and assist with new programs. Mia blinked, confusion flickering across her face. Me? I am not qualified for something like that. Ethan shook his head gently. You are more qualified than you think. You see people in a way that most do not. You understand what matters, and you choose with your heart, not your ego. That is exactly what the foundation needs. She looked down at her hands. But I did not finish college. I have only worked in the diner and cleaned houses. I do not have the background for something that important. You have integrity, Ethan said, and that is what I am looking for. Mia felt a tightness in her chest. She had heard words of encouragement before, but never like this. Never from someone who seemed to see her instead of her circumstances. I do not want you to answer right now, Ethan continued. I want to show you the place first. You deserve to understand what the job would involve. He stood and offered a hand to help her up. Mia hesitated, then placed her hand in his. His grip was warm, steady, nothing like the distant billionaire she once imagined the mansion's owner would be. They walked through the hallways, past the polished floors and towering arches, toward a quieter wing of the mansion. Ethan opened a glass door that led to a small office overlooking the garden. Sunlight washed over the room, and the shelves were lined with documents, binders, and folders labeled with community initiatives. This, Ethan said softly, is where most of my foundation work begins. Mia stepped inside, her gaze drawn to a wall covered with photos. Community events, food drives, scholarship winners, and neighborhood rebuild projects. Real people, real stories. Nothing like the cold marble of the mansion. You do all of this? Mia asked. I fund it, Ethan replied, but I do not run every detail. That is why I need people who care. Mia stared at a photo of volunteers handing out meals in a downtown shelter. I did not know you were this involved. People only talk about your business and your money. Ethan let out a small breath. People only look at what shines. They rarely look at what holds everything together. She understood that sentence more deeply than he realized. Mia moved closer to a bulletin board and touched a flyer for a community program titled Second Chance Projects. The paper was worn at the edges, as if someone had handled it many times. What is this one? She asked. It is one of the programs that needs rebuilding, Ethan said. It has potential. It just needs someone who understands real-life struggles. Mia looked at him. You believe I could help with something like that? I do, Ethan answered without hesitation. And I want to support your growth. I will provide training, a stable salary, and a place to stay for as long as you need it. The words "a place to stay" struck her immediately. Her breath hitched. She had been juggling rent, working 2 jobs, and worrying about her younger brother's health. She had been exhausted for years, surviving day by day. But now Ethan Cole was offering her a future. Mia felt her throat tighten. Why me? Ethan paused, choosing his words carefully. Because out of everyone I have met recently, you were the only one who chose something for my soul instead of my image. Her eyes glistened, but she swallowed the emotion back. Ethan stepped closer, his tone gentle but firm. You do not have to say yes. Just promise me you will think about it. Mia nodded slowly, holding the flyer in her hand as if it were something fragile. I will think about it. I promise. Ethan smiled for the first time that morning, a real smile, full of relief. And as Mia looked back at the garden outside the window, she realized this was the first moment in years when her life did not feel completely out of her control. For the first time, she saw the possibility of a doorway opening, one she never knew existed. Mia spent the next 2 days thinking about Ethan's offer. She carried the flyer from the foundation everywhere she went, tucked safely inside her apron at the diner, and folded neatly beside her bed at night. Every time she looked at it, she felt hope rise in her chest, followed immediately by fear. She had never imagined someone like Ethan Cole would look at her and see potential instead of limits. On the 3rd morning, she stood at the bus stop near her apartment in South Central Los Angeles, gripping the flyer as the bus approached. She had decided to visit the foundation building, not to give Ethan her answer, but to understand whether she truly belonged there. The ride into the city passed quickly, and soon she stood in front of Cole Foundation's headquarters, a sleek, modern building with tall windows reflecting the early sunlight. Inside, the lobby buzzed with activity. Volunteers gathered boxes of supplies, staff members discussed project schedules, and a group of interns prepared clipboards for an outreach event. Mia watched all of it quietly, feeling small but also strangely drawn to the energy of the place. A smiling receptionist greeted her. Hello, welcome to the Cole Foundation. How can I help you today? Mia hesitated before answering. I am here to learn about the community programs. Absolutely, the receptionist said warmly. We have several starting this week. One of our directors can show you around. Before Mia could respond, she heard footsteps behind her. She turned and saw Ethan walking toward her from a hallway, dressed in a simple navy suit. He did not look surprised to see her. If anything, there was a softness in his expression, as if he had hoped she would come. Mia, he said, I am glad you are here. She exhaled, the tension in her shoulders easing slightly. I wanted to see how things work. I wanted to understand what I would be doing. I will show you, Ethan replied. He lifted a badge from the front desk and handed it to her. Visitor pass, come with me. He led her through the building, stopping at departments dedicated to tutoring programs, senior care visits, food distribution routes, and emergency housing support. Every office was filled with people who looked motivated, purposeful, and kind. Mia felt something warm growing inside her as she watched them. Finally, Ethan brought her to a conference room where a small team was preparing materials for a local outreach event. This, Ethan said, is the program I wanted you to join, Second Chance Projects. Mia stepped forward, touching one of the packets on the table. Each one contained a planner, a pen, and a small guide titled Building New Habits. The combination looked remarkably similar to the items she had purchased for Ethan. You give these to people? Mia asked softly. Yes, Ethan answered. Families trying to rebuild, individuals getting back on their feet, people who need a place to begin again. That is why I thought of you. Mia looked down, emotions swelling in her chest. It is beautiful work. It is important work, Ethan added, the kind that requires someone with sincerity, someone who understands struggle without judgment. The team members looked at Mia with polite smiles, welcoming her without a single question. She felt herself breathing easier. Then Ethan placed a folder in front of her. This would be your first assignment if you join us. You would visit our partner shelters, help distribute the kits, and gather feedback to improve them. Mia opened the folder. Inside were reports, photos, and handwritten notes from people who had received help. Each note carried gratitude, hope, and pain. She swallowed hard. "I want to do this," she whispered. "I want to help people like this." Ethan studied her face. "Are you saying yes?" Mia hesitated, then nodded slowly. "I think, yes. I want to try. I want to learn. I want to do something meaningful." A quiet relief crossed Ethan's expression, so gentle she almost missed it. "You will not regret this," he said. Mia lifted her eyes to him. "I hope I will not be the one who disappoints you." Ethan shook his head. "You already proved your worth the moment you chose honesty over luxury." Mia felt her throat tighten. She looked down again, blinking back emotion. For the first time in her life, a door had opened not because she begged for it, but because someone believed she deserved to walk through it, and she was finally brave enough to step inside. Mia began her first week at the Cole Foundation with quiet determination. But as the days passed, the weight of the opportunity pressed harder on her shoulders. Every morning she woke before sunrise, worried she would make a mistake, worried she would prove that she did not belong in a place filled with educated people who spoke confidently about budgets, proposals, and long-term strategies. She tried to hide her anxiety, but it followed her everywhere, like a shadow she could not outrun. On Wednesday afternoon, she joined a staff meeting in one of the glass conference rooms. Reports and charts filled the screen at the front, and each team member presented progress updates with polished clarity. When it was Mia's turn to speak, her hands trembled slightly as she held her notes. She had spent hours preparing, yet her voice felt thin in the room. "I visited the shelters," she began, "and people responded well to the kits. They said the planners helped them stay organized. One woman said she used hers to track job applications. And," a senior coordinator interrupted gently, "Mia, could you summarize it in a short format? We need measurable outcomes." She froze for a second, unsure how to compress real human stories into neat data points. Heat crept into her cheeks, and she stumbled through the rest of her report. When the meeting ended, she packed her notes quickly, embarrassed and overwhelmed. As she stepped into the hallway, she heard two staff members whisper behind her. "She seems sweet, but she is totally inexperienced. Ethan hired her personally. What are we supposed to do?" Their voices stung like cold wind. Mia walked faster, blinking hard. She had known this transition would be difficult, but hearing her biggest fears spoken aloud made her heart sink. Later that evening, Ethan found her sitting alone in the small break area, staring at a cup of untouched tea. He approached quietly, noticing the tension in her shoulders. "Mia," he said gently, "you left the meeting quickly. Is everything all right?" She straightened immediately, trying to hide her expression. "I am fine. I just needed air." Ethan sat across from her. "Talk to me. What is troubling you?" Her fingers tightened around the cup. "I do not think I belong here. I hear the way people speak. They use words I do not understand. They work faster than I can keep up. I tried to give my report, but it sounded unprofessional. I felt like everyone knew I should not be in that room." Ethan listened carefully, his eyes steady on her. "Mia, you are new. Everyone struggles when they begin." She shook her head. "Not like this. I feel like I am pretending to be someone I am not. I am afraid I am going to disappoint you. I am afraid I am going to embarrass myself." The honesty in her voice pulled at him. He leaned forward slightly. "Do you know why I hired you? Because I bought you a planner?" she whispered bitterly. "No," Ethan said. "I hired you because you see people, because you understand what they need without being told. That cannot be taught in a classroom. That is your strength." Her eyes glistened, but she looked away quickly. "You are allowed to learn," he continued. "You are allowed to grow. No one expects you to know everything immediately. not even me. Mia's voice softened to a vulnerable whisper. But what if I cannot catch up? What if I fail? Ethan paused, his tone steady. Then you will stand up and try again, and I will help you. Mia finally looked at him, truly looked. He was not speaking as a billionaire or a leader. He was speaking as someone who understood what it felt like to start over. Before she could respond, a staff member approached the doorway and called Ethan's name, asking for him to return to the executive floor. Ethan stood but kept his focus on her. "We are not done with this conversation," he said. "You matter here, Mia. I promise you that." As he walked away, Mia sat quietly, the tea still cold in her hands. She was overwhelmed, frightened, and uncertain. But beneath all of it, a small spark flickered inside her. Because, for the first time today, she believed Ethan genuinely meant every word he said. Mia returned to work the next morning with a heavy but determined heart. She still felt the sting of yesterday's whispers, yet she refused to let that be the end of her journey. She arrived earlier than everyone else, unlocking the supply room and checking the inventory for the second chance kits. The quietness helped her breathe. It helped her think. She wanted to prove to herself, not to anyone else, that she deserved this opportunity. As she organized the shelves, she found a stack of handwritten letters from people the foundation had helped in previous years. Some thanked the volunteers for meals. Others shared how the programs had helped them find work or stable housing. Mia read each letter carefully, letting their words sink into her heart. She whispered to herself, "This is why I am here." The conviction steadied her. Later that afternoon, Ethan introduced her to Thomas Rivera, the director of outreach. Thomas was in his late 40s, warm-voiced, and carried the calm presence of someone who had worked with struggling communities for decades. "Mia," Thomas said, shaking her hand, "I heard you were joining our field team. Ethan speaks highly of you." Mia felt her cheeks warm. "I hope I can learn quickly." "That is all we ask," Thomas replied. "Come with me. There is something I want to show you." He led her out of the building and into a foundation van filled with boxes of second chance kits. They drove through the heart of downtown Los Angeles, past glass towers and busy intersections, until the scenery shifted into narrow streets and older buildings. The van stopped in front of a shelter serving families who had recently lost their homes. Inside, volunteers sorted clothes, prepared warm meals, and played with children in a small corner filled with donated toys. The atmosphere felt alive, hopeful, and real. Nothing like the polished boardrooms that had intimidated her earlier. Thomas handed her a clipboard. "Today, you will help distribute the kits. Speak to people. Ask how we can improve. Listen to their stories. That is the heart of our work." Mia's heartbeat quickened. She nodded. "I can do that." She approached the first woman, a mother of two who had recently escaped an abusive relationship. Mia listened to her describe how the planner helped her rebuild her daily routine and track appointments for her children. Mia wrote everything down carefully, asking gentle questions and offering encouragement. The woman squeezed her hand before leaving, thanking her with sincerity that shook Mia to her core. Hours passed, and Mia spoke with dozens of individuals, men searching for work, teenagers trying to finish school, elderly people struggling with rising rent. Each conversation reminded her why she wanted to say yes to Ethan's offer. Each person made the world inside the foundation feel less intimidating and more meaningful. Later in the afternoon, Ethan arrived at the shelter. He did not announce himself or draw attention. He simply stepped into the background, observing quietly as Mia worked. He watched her kneel to speak to a nervous teenager at eye level. He watched her encourage an older man who felt defeated after losing his job. He watched her smile, genuinely, softly, with kindness shaped by her own struggles. She looked natural here, grounded, connected. Thomas leaned toward Ethan. "She is made for this work. You chose well." Ethan nodded without taking his eyes off her. "She chose herself. I only opened the door." When Mia finally noticed him, she walked over, her face flushed from effort and emotion. "You came," she said. "I wanted to see how your first field day went." She held up her clipboard. "I learned more today than I learned all week in the office. These people, they are doing everything they can to start over. Helping them feels right. Ethan smiled gently. Because you understand them. Mia took a slow breath. Ethan, I think I am ready. I want to accept the position completely. I want to be part of this foundation. He felt something warm move through him. Pride, relief. Something deeper he was not ready to name. I am glad, Mia. Truly glad. Mia looked back at the shelter, her voice steady. I want to help people begin again, just like you helped me. Ethan followed her gaze, realizing that somewhere between the test, the planner, and today's fieldwork, Mia Turner was no longer the frightened maid who clutched a black credit card like a burden. She was becoming the heart of something larger. And he knew this was only the beginning. 2 months later, the Cole Foundation's event hall glowed with warm lights as hundreds of guests gathered for the annual Community Impact Gala. It was the first major event since Mia had officially joined the team, and the atmosphere felt different this year. Volunteers, business partners, and community members filled the room with a sense of shared purpose. The air buzzed with quiet excitement, but behind all of it was a story only a few people knew. Mia stood near the entrance, helping guide guests to their tables. She wore a simple navy dress that Ethan's team had helped her choose, not because it was expensive, but because it made her feel confident and comfortable. Each person who passed greeted her with genuine warmth. Some recognized her from outreach visits, thanking her softly for listening to them. She smiled at each one, humbled by how far she had come. Across the room, Ethan watched her with a quiet sense of pride that he could not fully put into words. She no longer moved like someone afraid of being seen. She carried herself with certainty, purpose, and sincerity. The planner she had bought him months ago sat on his office desk, filled with handwritten notes that marked his own journey of healing and rediscovery. When it was time for his speech, the room fell silent as Ethan stepped onto the stage. He adjusted the microphone, his gaze settling briefly on Mia before he began. Tonight is not about wealth, he said. It is about the choices that change lives. It is about the people who remind us what truly matters. Behind him, a screen illuminated with images of the Second Chance projects, families rebuilding, children smiling, volunteers handing out kits. Mia stood at the side of the room, watching quietly, unaware that Ethan had something planned. There is one story I want to share, Ethan continued. A while ago, I conducted a personal test. I gave out 4 black credit cards and asked 4 women to buy something they believed I needed. A soft murmur swept through the audience. Mia's heart tightened as she realized he was speaking about the test. 3 of them chose luxury, Ethan said, but one chose something very different. She chose a planner, a pen, and a book about leadership and integrity. He paused, letting the weight of the words sink in. She taught me that a new beginning cannot be bought. It must be built. She reminded me that leadership is not about power, but about purpose. The audience listened intently. Ethan lifted a glass display box that had been set on a nearby podium. Inside it were the 3 items Mia had chosen months earlier: the planner, the pen, and the book. The room filled with soft gasps. These, Ethan said, are the most meaningful gifts I have ever received. Mia covered her mouth, her eyes burning with emotion. Ethan stepped down from the stage and walked toward her slowly, the entire room turning to watch. He stopped a few feet away, his voice warm and steady. Mia Turner, he said, you helped me find direction again. You helped me remember who I wanted to be. And you helped this foundation transform into something more human. Mia tried to speak, but no words came. Her heart pounded as Ethan continued. I want to thank you, not just as the head of this foundation, but as a man who is better because of you. He extended his hand. Would you come up here? Her knees trembled, but she nodded and took his hand. Ethan led her onto the stage as the audience applauded softly, some smiling, some wiping their eyes. When they reached the center of the stage, Ethan turned toward her gently. I have learned that the right people come into our lives at the right moment, he said. Mia, you were that moment for me, and I hope I can be that for you too. The room held its breath. Mia finally found her voice, quiet and emotional. Ethan, I never wanted anything except to help. I never imagined this. He smiled, a soft, genuine smile that reached his eyes. That is why you were the person who changed everything. For a long, quiet second, they simply looked at each other. Two people who had begun on opposite sides of the world, but had met in a place built on honesty, kindness, and courage. Then Ethan spoke again, his voice steady. This is the beginning of something new, for the foundation, for me, and I hope, for us. The audience rose in a gentle standing ovation as Mia nodded, her eyes shining. And in that moment, under the warm lights of the gala, the billionaire and the maid stood side by side, not as test giver and test taker, not as rich and poor, but as two souls who had found their way to the same place, a place where integrity met love, a place where both of them could finally begin again.